I met up with Lenny at the Metronome Festival for some backstage drinks and a catch-up. Lenny explained she learned to speak English from the age of 3 years old, and she told me how grateful she was to her parents for that, as it really helped with her career. We chatted about her diverse musical influences through her teen years and what it was like for growing up around her mum's success as a singer and songwriter, and even touring with her mum at age 16. Lenny tells me about the incredible producers she has worked with and the stories behind how these opportunities arose. There is a surprising revelation about Jack Black too.
Lenny.
Lenny, welcome. Thank you for coming to
Thank you for having me.
our dopeYEAH podcast. It's a little noisy, but it's a festival, as we'd say.
Yes, we are vibing.
So we're here at the Metronome Festival. You played here last year. That must have been fun.
Yes, it was fun. It was actually raining, as we talked about it, backstage. And it stopped raining for our show. So it was amazing. And then it started raining again when we stopped playing, you know? So it was perfect timing.
So just kind of going through things a little bit chronologically from the beginning. So you grew up in the Czech Republic. So you've got like perfect English. So obviously
Thank you.
Went to English schools or American schools?
English preschool, actually. That's where it started. So I was 3 years old. Basically, I love to say that this is a gift. The English language is a gift from my parents. You know, that my parents gave me when they signed me up to the English preschool, because 3 years old, that's an age when you really, you know, you really get the language in you. So I think this is the result, and I'm super grateful for that.
Did you speak English in the house?
In the house, I tried to. My dad was kind of just like always waving it off because he can't speak too much. But my mum was super active in this area, and she was also trying to teach me French because she's, you know, speaks fluent French. And yeah, it was a bit embarrassing sometimes because she had this, you know, she was really like action-packed, you know. So we went to a restaurant and she suddenly just started speaking French, and you know, I was meant to like reply quickly and stuff like that. So it was funny, but yeah, English is you know, just the language that stuck.
So your mum, she was a star. Is still a star even to this day. So Lenka Filipová. Have I pronounced that right?
That's actually my name as well. We have the exact same
name.
Yes.
Yeah. So you had to sort of give it a twist.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So obviously there was music in the house all the time. So growing up. So did you ever? You went on tour with your mum as well, didn't you? At one point. So you were 16. You went on tour.
I would basically say that is where my music career started. You know, because I was trying to write songs since the age of 11, 12. And then when I actually had, I think it was kind of a good quality song, like my first song, I was maybe 14 or 15 years old. It was about love, obviously, like, you know, teenage love. And my mum was the first one to give me the opportunity to perform, you know, so she got the idea of me coming with her to tour in Australia.
Amazing.
So yeah, we had many places. Went to Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne, you know, and we toured. And that was my first tour, my first time performing my own song, and I got to see the reaction of the audience, you know, just live. They got to see me live, I got to see their reaction, and it was amazing. They just requested more, which was a surprise.
So when that happened, you got the bug, like properly got the bug once you properly toured.
Yeah.
You say that's true to say. Once that happened, there was no going back. You just thought, this is it for me?
I think so, yeah. I actually, you know, music was such a passion, you know, from such an early age. So I started playing piano when I was 4. My mum started to teach me guitar when I was 5 or 6, you know, so I actually played better guitar than I do, you know, right now, which is funny. When I see myself as a 6-year-old, I was like, you know, like really playing. But yeah, I guess that's where it all started, you know, so I knew music was the thing to do for me.
So your parents obviously are very encouraging, because sometimes, you know, especially with like show business, you know, parents, they kind of encourage you not to get involved because of all the shenanigans that goes on within the music business. But they were obviously very supportive from the beginning.
They were, although my mum was keen on me learning at a really early age that show business and the passion of creating music are two different things, you know, and that she prepared me for the shock of creating music, creating this beautiful thing, creating this beautiful connection with the audience, but then trying to sell the music and trying to get signed to a label, you know, and it's people trying to even steal your stuff, you know, steal your rights to your music, and that is and that is just a different thing, you know.
So when you're with your friends, you're young, you're living in Prague at the time, so what were you and your friends listening to? What was the influences? It
always changed, you know, so it went from Celine Dion, Shania Twain, and me singing in my room, you know, just with a hairbrush or something as a mic. And it went from me imagining that I'm on stage to this period in time where I listened to a lot of punk rock music. So it was Green Day, it was Blink-182, it was my teenage years.
Right.
And then everything combined, and it also my music taste changed slightly when I moved to London. So I discovered a whole other scene, even the hardcore scene in London. I used to go to many gigs back there, and you know, so it's ever evolving, I'd say, because I still like to find out more about artists that I don't know about yet.
And what age were you when you went to London?
I was 19.
Okay, so
so that was college years.
Was it a culture shock in any way, or was it just?
No.
No, you loved it?
I was actually surprised how much of a culture shock it wasn't, you know,
right.
Because I felt at home, you know. I just felt like I knew the language. Some people travel to countries where they have to get along with people that, you know, they don't speak the language, and they're just in culture shock, as you say. But I felt like I'm at home, you know. And up till now, London feels like my second home.
So you started doing EPs first. You did like 2 EPs, and I mean that was kind of more singer-songwritery. You're trying to find your feet and feel what works.
Yeah.
And then obviously you go on to doing the first record, which was very much a pop rock record. So.
Yes.
And was just the different producers that you were using. You were using a guy called Ondřej Fiedler. Is that am I pronouncing his name right?
Yeah.
He's fabulous, and you know, like I know the dynamic between an artist and a producer if there's not a band involved. So you obviously got close. How did you meet him, and how did that sort of relationship begin?
Well, he was my boyfriend at the time, so obviously the relationship began how it began. But we just got together regardless the music, you know. Actually, I think I was introduced to him as a potential guitar player that could play in my band, and you know, the guy that introduced us was a producer also, and he said, look, I want you to meet this guy Ondra, and he just is a great guitar player, he could fit in your band. So we started playing together, and then we started dating. So basically this was our relationship, and out of this relationship I think very organically came the specific songs that were then on the album, you know. And I think that you can hear in the songs that they were created with like a real ease, you know, like there was no pressure creating the album, and I think that's maybe why it was so successful, you know?
Yeah, well, they're brilliant songs. I mean, Hello was a huge hit.
Yes.
A huge hit in Italy.
Yes, and, for some reason.
But I thought, you know, and again, in no way being disparaging to Czech producers, but I just felt that the sound of those records, that record Hearts, and the next record Weird and Wonderful, I mean, that was a world-class sound for a world-class audience. There was nothing in any way that would discriminate that against an album from the States or from are from the UK. So I think you guys did an amazing job on those 2 albums. And so you went on for 2 albums working with Ondřej, and then maybe the 3rd album, which was Heartbreak Culture, you started bringing in other producers.
Yeah, that was a dream of mine to basically to try another path, you know. I had to give Ondřej a break as well because, you know, he started being very, after the success of the Hearts album, he started being very popular also as a producer, you know, and many bands, including, for example, Mirai. You might know this band is huge now in the Czech Republic. They started to call him in to produce their songs. And the songs that he produced or produces have millions of views now. So good for him, but I felt like I needed another, you know, just another journey, you know, to take another path and to try something new. And I think that the producers that are, you know, namely on the last record, Heartbreak Culture, Dan Lancaster, or even Mike Shinoda of Linkin Park, that was amazing cooperations for me.
So how did you manage to get Mike Shinoda to produce your track? I mean, he's a busy man.
Absolutely. He was actually, it was a very organic cooperation because it started off when I was invited to be his support act at his gig in Prague.
Oh, amazing.
Back in 2019, I believe it was March. And we got invited. We got chosen from about 5 or 6 other bands. So specifically Mike's management and Mike picked me to be his support act. And at the day of the gig, I learned that I'm going to sing a feature with him. So I was very surprised. I had to learn the lyrics last minute, and it was an amazing, not only an amazing opportunity, but an amazing experience to meet Mike and his team, and they were amazing. Mike is, I'd say, one of the most friendly, humble artists that I've ever met in my life, and he was very very friendly. We could talk about my music even. I didn't really want to come over as, come across as super ambitious or super pushy.
Sure.
You know, some artists do that. Some artists are like, look, this is my music. Let's do something, you know. I'm not really that way. I'm very careful. I'm very, humble,
sure,
maybe, as to say. And so it was basically at the very end of the meeting when I thought, okay, now is just the time to give it a shot, you know. So towards the end of our meeting, when we were saying our goodbyes, I just gave him my album and I was like, Mike, I would really, it would be a dream come true if we could work on something together. And then it was like a year before something happened, I think.
Right.
We were in contact on Instagram, like liking and stuff like that, sharing posts. But the real deal was when I sent him a bunch of demos with a request if he would, like to produce one of my songs. And he picked a song called Lithium. Mm-hmm. And that's how, it all
brilliant
came to life.
And then after that, working with Dan Lancaster as well, how did that come about?
Yes, that was actually maybe even before.
So he's done Blink 182 and Bring Me the Horizon.
Yes,
and,
Dan, this was actually, this is a funny story because I just started following him on Instagram. I noticed he started following me, and I just gave it a shot straight away. I was like, oh, I really would love to work with Dan, because I love the stuff that he does and I love how he does it, and I love that he is, his heart is kind of a rock and roll heart, Mm-hmm. You could say that he does a lot of rock arts and Don Brocco and, as you said, Blink 182, bands that I love. And so I reached out to him on Instagram, and it was basically one message. It was like, Dan, I really admire what you do. would you possibly consider, producing this song for me? And I already thought that I know the song that I would like him to produce, and it took him like 10 minutes to go, yeah, sure.
Fantastic.
That was it, so, yeah.
And the rest is history. And then obviously Olie Jacobs as well, you worked with, which is Harry Styles, which is more the pop side, and Charlie XCX.
Yes, I love Olie. Olie is such a great guy, and he's a friend of mine. We worked, actually, Ondra gave me Olie's contact because Ondra was picked up as a producer by a band called Christoph.
Okay.
You surely know them. They're a huge band, huge Czech band. And Olie at the time was an assistant engineer, on their, he wasn't, I believe he wasn't even mixing the thing, you know, he was like an assistant engineer of like a US team that, even though Olie is English, he was, assisting at the recording in New York. And then Ondra came home and he was like, look, we were meant to produce this song called Enemy. And it was also a song made specifically for a shoe manufacturer as a, for them. And we wanted Olie on board. And Ondra was like, why don't we invite Olie? Because he's such a great guy and he knows, he's the master of his craft. Let's get him in on the project. So he actually came to the Czech Republic and, Slovakia. We actually recorded the song in Slovakia. And he just flew from England to Slovakia and we did, we just recorded the Enemy song and we had such a good time. We were actually all living at an Airbnb in Bratislava, it was amazing. And I continued to contact Olie after that for mixes because he's an amazing mixing engineer and he really built himself up. And then one day he was just like, oh, in case you would be interested, I'm working with Harry Styles now, on an album.
Brilliant.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, tell me everything about it. I'm a huge fan, And he said, yeah, so Harry is amazing. We are working in a studio in Bath. Was it Bath? I'm sorry, I don't want to, mix up the information here. But yeah, he said, in case you ever want to come to the studio, I've never made it to the studio though, which is a shame. But it was great working with Olie. He's an amazing guy.
So working with all these huge names, I mean, it's really great validation. It kind of really good for your confidence because you get to a certain level and it's not about the money, it's whether they like you. You know what I mean? It's like whether they think it's not only good for you, but good for them. If you suck, they suck. So, you know what I mean? You're going to release records. So it's a huge thing when you get that kind of caliber of producers coming to the table.
Exactly. As you say, you actually said a great thing that I'm so glad that I got to work with these producers on the basis of mutual interest, because I know so many artists here in Czech that love to flash foreign names around, I worked with this guy and this guy, and I worked in New York with that guy, but it's really, it's really such a pleasure to be and such an honor to be working with these people that have a mutual interest on that. They're not just paid to do the job. They are really excited about the job, and that's an honor for me.
So artists around at the moment that are influencing you, people that you're listening to now, what's on the playlist?
Actually, I love to listen to New Music Fridays on Spotify.
Sure.
And that is because even though I end up maybe not being a fan of
most of it.
No, that would be bad thing to say. But some songs I'm not a fan of, but that's okay because at least I know what's going on in the world, and I can also be influenced by that in some kind of way. I really love going to gigs. So my biggest excitement now is I'm actually going to see Beyonce in Warsaw next week. And I'm super excited because, you know, I think that's the best thing if you can just go and see the performer live, the artist perform live. So I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, then I've got a few staples that I love to listen to. Post Malone, Halsey, Beyonce, obviously, you know, some of the artists that I love and I've loved for a long time.
So if there was any one of those you could do a collaboration with now, who would it be?
Oh, you know, I always make fun of this, but I actually mean it. I would love to do a collaboration with Jack Black.
Really?
That would be so amazing. I just love this guy. But I'm thinking maybe Foo Fighters, you know, or somebody like that.
Just give them a call. You never know. You did it with Mike, you know?
If I'd have the number, I'd do it. I'd give it a shot.
I might know some people. I'll give you a shout.
Okay.
Fun things. Best gig, worst gig.
Oh, why am I thinking of worst gig first? Well, worst gig, you know what? I don't actually know off the top of my head, but I'm sure I have been let down by certain artists, you know, when I thought that it's going to be an amazing gig and an amazing artist, and then this guy maybe turns out to be an asshole or something, you know. Right. So I think even more than like bad gig, I'd say the disappointment lies in, you know, putting your hopes in this idol and then them being just, you know, an asshole.
You've had no kind of Spinal Tap moment, you know.
But on the other hand, like I mentioned, Mike Shinoda, an amazing person. Another amazing person that I've got, you know, had the pleasure to meet is LP.
Oh, okay, great. Amazing.
She's such a sweet person, you know, so humble. And her gig was amazing. You know, so much energy, powerful vocals.
A friend of mine in LA writes with her, Mark
Really?
Nelkin. He's a really close friend.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. We actually, we follow each other on Instagram with LP. And once in a while, I like her post, you know, she might write a sweet little thing, just thank you, you know, like, she's an amazing person. Yeah, I'm thinking, and then another amazing gig, Post Malone I saw Post Malone in Denmark a while ago. And the energy that just, you know, goes from his soul is amazing, you know, he's a beautiful soul.
So what's the big challenge been as a woman in the music business, would you say?
I get asked that a lot. The funny thing is, I'd say it's more of a paradox. A lot of people ask me, you know, that there's this whole Equal campaign. I was featured in it as well, Spotify Equal campaign. But I don't really think something like this is going on in the Czech Republic, you know, because, I mean, unequality, you know. I think in the Czech Republic, if you're a good artist, people generally don't care, you know. Right. If you're a guy or a girl, they just go and see, oh, look, Lenny's performing, let's go and see her, you know. I don't think there's much of disharmony, you know, in this. I think Czech Republic is actually very equal.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place and just so laid back in every way.
Yeah.
Just lastly, as we wrap up, what's for the future? What's coming up?
Well, a lot of new music, you know, and a lot of plans and dreams and hopes, even, I'd say. But I just have to see, you know. I as I said with Mike and Dan, you know, I love to reach out to people, you know, just give it a shot, be humble, just try and build myself up. And each step that I take, I love to be just a bit further than the last one, you know, just to make sure I don't take a step back and a step back. I really like to go forward. So I'm just really in a planning phase right now, and I hope everything turns out well. We'll see.
I think it's going to be amazing. I think you've got a huge future ahead of you. I'm a big fan, honestly, a proper big fan. I think you're Music is amazing. You're an incredible singer, great songwriter.
Thank
Huge
you so
future ahead
much.
of you.
Thank
Lenny,
you.
thank you so much for doing the podcast. And I think
Thank you.
it's time for some heavy drinking.
Thank you for having me. Let's go.